welcome to Kim from too many things in my head, from Thankful for Farmers, and Charlie Arnott, who is a biodynamic farmer, who is a fantastic podcaster and is a great advocate and proselytizer for the cause. So it's great to have you both here. Thank you very much. And I'm going to hand it over to you.
Well, thank you for our very enthusiastic audience. I just want to start by telling you a little bit about Thankful for Farmers and the work that we've been doing, because one of the things that we've been asked constantly or told constantly in the last couple of days is we haven't really heard very much about you and we don't know the work that you do. So we started Thankful for Farmers in 2019, and that was really in direct response to what was happening in Australia at the time. And if we can cast our minds all the way back to 2019, Australia was suffering that worst drought in living memory in some parts of the country, which was followed very quickly by bushfires and then flooding. And there was this huge global spotlight on Thankful for Farmers, and seeing what was happening, we really wanted to do something about it. So we were living in New York at the time, and we came back to Australia and we spoke to producers on the front line. We wanted to understand from you what you needed and what you wanted. And at that time, there was a lot of conversation around farming and agriculture in Australia, but the narrative was all very much based on poor farmers need our help. It was a conversation of charity and it was a conversation of pity. And what producers on the front line told us was that whilst you were thankful for the help and support you were receiving, it wasn't the conversation or the narrative that you wanted. What you really wanted was a conversation of value and recognition. So we set about trying to change that conversation and change that narrative to remind Australians as they go to their local farmers market or they're walking around the supermarket stuffing their trolley with the most amazing quality of produce, to stop and think about the men and women who've grown that produce for them, how that produce has been grown, and just how fortunate we are, and why every single day, at least 3 times a day, we need a farmer. Now, because we were still living in New York, we also did a lot of work with Cornell University and Johns Hopkins as well. We recognised that the challenges facing Australian agriculture are by no means uniquely Australian challenges. They are global challenges affecting food supply chains, impacting food security across the globe and impacting every single one of us. So we came back to Australia and launched Thankful for Farmers in 2019 with a clear focus on 3 key areas. One being the farm. How can we help the farm practice more climate smart agriculture, and really meeting farmers where they're at on their journey of climate smart agriculture and supporting them on that journey. The second is the farmer themselves, and how can we support the health and well-being of our farmers to ensure we have future generations of farmers to come. We know that farmers and farming communities suffer disproportionately high rates of mental health and wellbeing challenges, but they also suffer disproportionately high rates of cardiovascular disease and other disease states as well. So how can we support our farmers so there is a future generation? And the third area of focus is really the farming community in regional and rural Australia, because we know if farming communities aren't thriving, then our agricultural sector can't possibly thrive either. The way that we work is we don't believe that any of us can do this work alone. The challenges are just much too big. We also don't believe in sticking another Band-Aid on a problem. So we don't support any short-term solutions. We really try to look at the systemic problem and how can we be part of the process to fix it. So the way that we work is through a collaborative model. We partner with brands and organisations who share our commitment to supporting Australian producers, and through their support we're then able to fund initiatives that are able to create impact. So to date, since 2019, we've funded a number of different initiatives. One of those includes a drought resilience program. We have funded a program to support regional and rural mums and the unique challenges they experience as mums in regional and rural communities. They don't have that infrastructure and network to support them. We have funded a film called Thankful for Soil with Matthew Evans, very kindly appears in as well and is a main spokesperson, really celebrating the men and women who are doing amazing things to protect, regenerate our soils. And if you think about it, farmers wear two incredibly important hats. Yesterday, I spoke about the many hats that you wear, but if you think about the two biggest challenges the world is facing, it's climate change and food security. And who's sitting at the solution to both of those things? It's the hardworking men and women who grow our food as frontline food supply chain, but also frontline environmentalists. And through your farming practices, you can actually help reverse the impact of climate change. And the third area is that regional and rural community that we focus on. And as I mentioned, we've funded the Drought Resilience Program. We've funded a documentary, Thankful for Soil. We've funded and supported regional and rural mums. We've funded some research through Deakin University to understand the correlation between climate-smart agricultural practices and a farmer's health and well-being. So if a farmer looks after themselves and their own mental health and well-being, are they more likely to look after the land, or vice versa? To understand that correlation. We have also funded the Queensland Rural Flying Doctor Service to create a book called Mental Health and Wellbeing on the Land, written by frontline clinicians, specifically for men and women in regional and rural communities and frontline producers. And that book is free for every single person in Queensland. And most recently, we've been doing a lot of work through the supply chain, looking at the food waste challenge from farm gate to dinner plate. And if you think about food waste and start digging deeper and understanding it, you recognize it's a huge global problem. In fact, if food waste were a country, it would be the third largest emitter of greenhouse gases in the world, behind China and the USA. If we could save just a quarter of all the food that gets wasted in the world, we would end world hunger. There would not be a hungry person in the planet. So food waste is a huge challenge, and we've been tackling that. At a farm gate level, we've been working and researching a project to reduce farm gate organic waste. During that process, we understood, particularly in the horticultural industry, just how big a challenge plastic waste is as well. So identified globally technology that can take both organic as well as plastic waste and create an output. With the organic waste, the output is 2 different types of animal feed plus a soil conditioner. With the plastic waste that happens on farm, the output of that is a synthetic form of coal that we can then use as a fuel substitute. So that piece of work, we're working really closely with the farmers up in the Greater Whitsunday region in Queensland, as well as in the Bundaberg region. And plastic waste on farms, we were just blown away by, as we were driving through those regions, seeing huge mountains of plastic waste. And what we learned really quickly, if we could see that plastic waste, it was actually a really positive sign, because it meant the farmers hadn't buried it in the ground or they hadn't burnt it. But it's a huge, huge challenge. So we're addressing that challenge as well. We're also looking at food waste at a retail or commercial level, and we ran a trial program with 6 retailers over a 10-week period to understand the opportunity to create a circular economy solution and divert the food that's not fit for human consumption. So this is after the food charity services have come in and taken that food, to divert that food back to farm in the form of animal food. And during that 10-week trial, we diverted 3.8 tonnes of food, with a lot of those producers telling us without the support of that additional animal feed, they wouldn't have been able to feed their livestock at that time, because we know farmers are facing cost of living crisis just like everybody else, plus rising input costs. So that animal feed was really valuable, and we're looking at how we can scale that out nationally across Australia as well. And the other big key area of food waste happens in our home. In fact, globally, 61% of all food waste actually occurs in our homes. The average Aussie family throws away 1 in 5 shopping bags, costing about $3,000 a year. An area the same size as Victoria, every single year in this country is used to grow food that every single year we throw away. Now, obviously, it's not just the food that's going in the rubbish bin, it's all of those natural resources to grow that food as well. So 12 months ago, we launched a free app with the support of multiple levels of government, from the federal government down to local LGAs, but South Australian government, New South Wales, Queensland, to develop a practical and tangible digital tool that is free for every single Australian to educate Australians on how to use the food they have in their fridge, freezer and pantry to be able to make delicious meals and not waste it. And that was after 3 years of consumer research, really understanding consumer behaviour, that we built that tool, and it's called Save Full. And as I said, it's available free for every single Australian. And we're doing that also by building this collaborative network of government partners, corporate partners, local councils and consumers to solve a big problem. And that's really the way that we work. It's bringing all of the key stakeholders together under this umbrella of Thankful for Farmers to solve systemic problems rather than just sticking Band-Aids on it. So that's a brief snapshot of some of the work that we've been doing. We have been pretty busy in the last few years and continue to be, but we couldn't do this work without incredible supporters like Charlie Arnott. And Charlie, we met way back in 2019, and Charlie has been on our advisory council since then and has been a great support. So Charlie, I'll let you talk a little bit about why you're involved with Thankful for Farmers.
Thanks, Kim. Before I bang on about me for 2 minutes, I just want to highlight that's a lot of stuff, right? That's a huge amount of work over the last 5 years. Yeah, add that up. Guess how many people are the core of Thankful for Farmers? 2 people, Kim and Mike, over there. And they have an advisory council and they've got lots of supporters. But in terms of rubber on the road, 9 to 5, probably 7 to 10 is probably what it's really like. There's only 2 of them, and it's incredible how much work these guys get through. And so what I wanted to talk about today, we were talking before going, I'll talk about me and then X, Y, and Z. But then I thought, you know what, these guys have sponsored the tent, they work like dogs. How can we, as people in this tent, it's a real pity there's not more people here to contribute, but how can we, or you, who've been listening to some amazing world leaders in food, farming, health, environment, help these guys, what you might have picked up from a talk today or yesterday, what you do in your own backyard, what business you're in, what enterprise or industry, how you guys could potentially help these guys directly or indirectly, or at least suggest some things that they could look at or someone they could talk to. So it's a bit self-serving in terms of, I think, these guys give so much, and I cannot believe that these 2 guys, with help from some others, have done as much as they have done. Like that Save Full app is incredible. Like it's a world first, right?
Absolutely. It took us 3 years to build. And just to give you some context, Mike and I have actually sold everything we own. And when I say everything we own, I mean everything we own to do this work. We've sold the family home, we've even sold the car, because we're so passionate about supporting Australian agriculture and having a positive impact in the world, and for the generations to come, and being role models for our children. So we're not doing this to make money. We're doing this because we are incredibly passionate about it, and we have absolutely put our money where our mouth is. And yes, Save Full is an incredible app. It is the first of its kind in the world with the technology that we've implemented sitting behind it, which is super exciting. In the 12 months since we've launched, we've now got more than 27,000 Australians using the app. We've got some incredible partners now supporting us, which we are delighted with. But, the only way we can do this work is through the support of corporate partners, or through working with the farmers and the producers and really understanding what you want, what you need. We're not here to tell you what we think you need. We want to work with you in a collaborative way so that we can serve you in a way that makes the most sense to you. So just even understanding that, and you reaching out and telling us how we can be of best service to you would be hugely beneficial and helpful.
Just a question: so this app is it dealing primarily with food? Educating farmers about the food waste in their kitchens, or is it also dealing with the potential food waste from the farm, as in growers having excess tomatoes or whatever it may be?
Yeah. Yeah, so the question was with Save for the app, is it specifically educating people about food waste in their homes, or does it also talk about seasonal produce and when there's a surplus of produce? So the answer is it does both. With Save for, it is when you go into the home screen, we show people what's in season at the moment, because so many of us, when you walk into a supermarket particularly, you can buy everything all year these days. And you don't know, so many people don't know what seasonal fruit and vegetables are. And obviously when you're buying seasonally, you're buying sustainably, but more importantly, you're supporting Australian farmers. So the first thing that we show you is what's in season. So if there is a glut of avocados or there's a glut of strawberries or whatever it may be, for whatever reason, we can then really highlight that through the app to say, hey, go and buy an avocado, and here's all the 50,000 ways you can use those avocados to support Australian producers and Australian farmers. And then we're also showing people how to use everything in their fridge, freezer and pantry and not waste it. And we do that through really clever technology that allows you to personalize every single recipe within the app based upon what you've got in your fridge, freezer and pantry, and then we'll show you how to make it based upon your fridge, freezer and pantry. So it is totally free, and it's available on both app and Google Store.
That's gold for, people like me who just look at a fridge, it's full of food and go, I don't know what I'm going to do with that. It's so good. But also you guys did in the, I guess it was really COVID, and in terms of helping connect people who want to work with the horticulture industry, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. During COVID, obviously, labour was a huge challenge for a lot of regional Australia, and during that year 2020, a lot of Australian farmers were coming out of drought. And for the first time, they were having bumper crops, and we were hearing really horrific stories that because they didn't have the labour to pick those crops, they were then ploughing them back into the ground, and farmers were losing hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, because they simply didn't have the labour because of COVID, state borders being shut, but international borders as well. So we said we really need to support Australian producers. What can we do? We built a website and launched an initiative called the New Gap Year to really encourage young Australians to get out there during, whether it's their end of year school break, or take 12 months and explore regional Australia and work on farm during that time. And we had such a great interest in that, we redefined what gap year was, and we said that anyone can take a gap year. You don't have to be a student, just encouraging people to get out there and to support Australian producers. And it can be 1 month to 6 weeks to 1 whole year. Just if you've got some time, go and support Australian producers. So we launched the New Gap Year during that time as well.
Apart from a holiday, what do you guys need?
Gosh, there's so much that we need because we've got so much more work to do. But, as Charlie said, there's two of us, and this isn't a job for us. This is our lives, and it's not, 9 to 5 or 7 to 7. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, constantly. So it's been 10 years since we've had a holiday. So a holiday would be nice. But I think what we really need is support. We need corporate support. We need farmers support. We need all of you guys talking about Thankful for Farmers. And the more people talking about Thankful for Farmers, the more likely we are to get that corporate support as well. So the way that we work and how we are able to generate funding is through brands co-branding product with us. They put their our Thankful for Farmers logo on their product. When consumers buy that product, they know they're supporting Australian producers. We then get a percentage of every product that gets sold, and we negotiate that with every partner that we have. And then 90 cents in every dollar that we get from those product partnerships, 100% of that money from those product partnerships goes into our foundation, which is a registered Australian charity, and then 90 cents in every dollar in the foundation goes to creating positive impact. The way that we're able to put food on our tables is through sponsorship, which is a separate commercial relationship as well. So we need product partners, and then we need corporate partners for sponsorship as well. But we need all of you talking about Thankful for Farmers.
I don't know if I add any more to that. I guess only to say that my association started in 2019, and you guys essentially sponsored an award at the Delicious Food Awards that year, which I won, which was amazing. And as part of that that sort of, I guess, award was a trip to New York, where we went to Cornell University. We had a launch in the, what building was it?
It was on the rooftop of the Rockefeller Centre overlooking Fifth Avenue. We hosted with the Australian Consulate a dinner there. Matt Moran, as our ambassador, came out as well, and we hosted a 3-course dinner showcasing the best of Australian produce and wine and spirits to America, basically. So yeah, we're very lucky that Charlie emceed that event for us.
It was great fun, but I guess the back to the here and now is, you know, I don't know where we can take this. I mean, what I'd love, you know, is hoping we get a room full of people here who've, you know, absorbed, because not any of us have been to every single presentation. It's impossible, of course, but to have kind of thrown all that onto the table and thought, you know, how can if there's technology, if there's people, whether there's resources, whether there's, you know, philanthropic kind of people who can actually help you guys, you know. So when we've got, you know, we have people in the room. So has anyone got any ideas, any questions about this as well? Because there's so many layers to this that I think it'd be lovely just to unwrap a little bit.
Thank you for the presentation. And so I'm ashamed to say that I didn't know about Thankful for Farmers before arriving. And what you do is absolutely amazing. And the commitment is obviously extraordinary. But I'm sitting here thinking, you know, I was about to say, well, you know, co-branding with farm produce, of course, makes sense. But for a very small farm like ours, we sell some eggs and we sell some beef. You know, we hardly going to be able to contribute in terms of great sponsorship, but of course you know, what could we do to share the message? And we would love to get this message out for everyone that buys our products, that they should be thankful for farmers. So how do we do that? Because, you know, if we can help you get this out from the tiniest farm to the biggest farm, we're gonna get the return on it in terms of what you're doing for us. So, not sure what my question is, but how do we help?
Thank you. And I appreciate the question. So thank you and the offer to want to help. You know, there are so many ways, just as I mentioned earlier, just amplifying the message, making people aware that Thankful for Farmers exists. With 2 of us and with limited resources, we don't have millions of dollars to spend on marketing to push our message. And as I mentioned, we'd much rather create impact than spend our own money on marketing what Thankful for Farmers is about. So talking about Thankful for Farmers, if you have social media for the farm, you know, hashtag Thankful for Farmers, tag us in posts, and even, you know, co-branding product just to drive awareness would be incredible as well.
Trap you if you have to go.
Just in a society where it's on numbers and dollars, and the majority of society gives 15-20% of their paycheck to one of the 2 supermarkets at 5 o'clock every Thursday night. It's predictability. And you guys are reaching, 0.1% of Australia's population. So the price of the ingredient in the shopping basket dictates whether it's bread and sausages or off-season avocados and from which country they come from. But where's the societal blockage? Where is this? There's this, all the people living in the burbs. When did farmers lose the respect of the people that depend on them to stay alive? And the food that we produce and the you know, the milk and the meat and the bread and the staples and everything that are so vital. But there's this worldwide, there's this residence, this almost hatred to those that farm the land. And in your conversations, what are the key sentences that you're hearing that say that the people in the cities just don't either don't get it or don't want to get it, or their social circles and their digital lives are saying, well, it's just bread, it's just meat, and they don't care. How can we make them care more?
And that's a really great question, and that's something that through Thankful for Farmers we are absolutely passionate about, bridging that gap from farm gate to dinner plate so people have a much greater understanding, appreciation and recognition of the men and women who are growing their food for them and the process that they are going through to grow that food. Because we've heard a lot over the last 24 hours about the connection between food and our mental health and well-being, but also our physical health. And what we are really trying to do is to bridge that gap and remind everybody that every single day, at least 3 times a day, we need a farmer. You know, it's not bloody farmers making too much money, or it's not poor farmers, we need to support them. It's, oh my gosh, every single day, 3 times a day, we need a farmer. And that's the narrative that Thankful for Farmers is driving. And what's really interesting about that word thankful, and this really goes to human behaviour and motivation. We did a lot of work when we first set up the organisation to really understand what was going to motivate human behaviour and change behaviour, and the power of gratitude, being thankful. We know it is the single most important thing we can do on a daily basis to improve our mental health and well-being. We know also through research that it improves our physical health, our cardiovascular health, our immune systems. But what's more important than both of those things in my mind is that when we are thankful for something, we are more likely to want to look after it, to nurture it, to value it, and to appreciate it. So when we're thankful for the planet, we're going to look after it, we're going to restore it, we're going to regenerate it. When we're thankful for farmers, we are going to value the contribution of farmers as frontline environmentalists, but as the men and women who put food on our table every single day. So we were really strategic about the name of the organisation and did a lot of consumer change behaviour research to come up with the name Thankful for Farmers, to simply do exactly that, change that narrative. And until we change that narrative, and it's going to take all of us, it's going to take a whole collective, until we change that narrative, then there is going to be a disconnect. And we do need to make the everyday Australian, as they're walking around the supermarket, stuffing their trolley, understand why that bread is so expensive or why that milk has gone up $2. It's because of the hard work back in the milking sheds. For the farmer, the cost of labour has increased, the cost of milk, to value it, not just buy the cheapest milk on the shelf or the cheapest fruit, or to buy the avocados that have come from Mexico or the asparagus, because guess what? I want asparagus in the middle of winter. Support Australian farmers when food is in season. And that seasonality piece is really important as well. The average Australian does not understand what's in season and when it's in season, because we are so spoilt, if you like, being able to walk into the supermarket and buy anything any time of the year. So educating Australians when produce is in season is equally important to help them to recognise the importance of farmers.
Good. Can I just add to that one? It might be a little controversial, but I think that the environmental movement has some responsibility, is involved with the disconnect, ironically. I think that what we're not telling at the moment are the good stories. Stories are we're trying to sell sausages, but we've got to sell the sizzle as well. And that's the stories we're not telling very well. And I think a lot of the stories that are being told in the media are not good stories about farmers, about whether it's cows farting and burping, whether it's other environmental degradation, whether it's farmers doing great things with milk in its various forms and stages of processing, that is bad. And I think there's a lot of people out there trying to do good things by highlighting some problems, but I think at the same time there's a lot of guilt that seems to be loaded on the shoulders of farmers. I'm not complaining, by the way. I think stating a fact. And then we're somewhat responsible for saving the planet now. We've got to stop. We're supposed to feed cattle things to stop them farting and burping. We're not allowed. Not me, but not a dairy farmer. But dairy farmers are having to basically bastardise their milk so they can comply to sell their milk. It's those ridiculous things that we are made responsible for, and we've got enough on our plate, and I think that the wrong stories are being told. I mean, there's many more good news stories that aren't being told, but also I think the well-meaning environmentalists are not considering the implications of the stories they're telling, and I think it's a big conversation. There's a whole lot more behind it. I think there's a lot of money behind it. I think there's a lot of other agendas, which we don't need to go to now. And it's a real pity because, farmers are made to feel guilty about what they do, about their livelihood and the food that they're trying to do their best to produce. And I just say to farmers, you know what, don't worry about the planet. Just worry about your patch. You can control what happens within the boundary of your farm. Just do a better job as best you can, and case in point, we've just had a day and a half of amazing world-leading speakers in this amazing environment, which is, this is, walking the talk. And so I think farmers have to sort of kind of not feel so guilty about their livelihoods and what they're doing. And that's all we can do. If we deal with what we can control, which is the boundary of our own farm, and we fix up, we improve that, the neighbour might see it, the community might see it. I don't know about the supermarket thing. It's a big question there. They're not going to pack up overnight. But what we can do, and again, events like this create a surge in inspiration and networking and communication, which will hopefully counter somewhat what's happening and the laziness of. It's convenient, aren't they? Supermarkets are convenient. So how can we offset that? It's a tough one. But I think, I think some people have just got to stop telling bad stories because there's so many more good stories out there.
Absolutely, and share those stories with us because through Thankful for Farmers, we really want to tell them and amplify them and make people aware of them.
Yeah, so I was wondering, when it comes to your membership, like it's obviously vast and I imagine has some influence. Do you use that in a lobbying capacity? For example, when the Federal Investment Review Board is making decisions about allowing big foreign takeovers of industries in Australia and Tasmania?
So we try. We do our best, like everyone else. We certainly have conversations with federal government and various different state governments as well. We make them consciously aware of the work that we are doing. We share the voices of farmers when it's appropriate, but absolutely. And it's only through government support, and all levels of government support, industry association and brands and corporates that we're going to be able to create the size of change and the impact that needs to happen to have that long-term sustainable change. So we need to include every single level of government, cross-industry and multi-industry and corporate to be involved as well.
Hi, Kim. Good. Nice to see you again. You've got a big agenda, 2 people, and you've got a lot of experience in the advertising marketing world, but you can't do everything. You've said, what are your priorities and how are you approaching that?
We do have a big agenda and we're incredibly ambitious, and like a lot of other people I've heard over the last few days, I'm an absolute optimist. So in terms of prioritising, our focus at the moment is creating those circular economy solutions from farm gate to dinner plate to really look at, through the supply chain, food waste and how we can have an positive impact on that. We are always continuing to roll in new partners, and what's really fantastic is that whilst there's only 2 of us on a daily basis, a lot of our partners partner with us, not just with their checkbooks, but also with resource. So they're committed to the work that we're doing as well, and they put internal resource behind it, which is why we're able to amplify that work and to focus on various different things. But the big focus right now is circular economy solutions, reducing food waste from farm gate to dinner plate, and the mental health and wellbeing of our farmers as well.
More? You know, got any things to add to that? Ideas? They're all valid. Feelings? We can get feely.
Well, just on the story, so in terms of stories, I think, so I'm 62 years old.
Get out of here.
I am. And 5 years ago, I quit corporate life with my wife, Lucy. She dragged me into this. She's not here, unfortunately, to become a farmer. We have no farming credentials in our family, background, grandparents, none, zero. And when I look around this, the people are here today, yesterday too, and many other conferences, a couple of other conferences I've been to. I'm too busy farming now, I can't go to conferences anymore. There are a lot of young people, and I will not bring the average farmer age down clearly, but the point is there's a lot of stories about people from, 60, well, whatever I was when I moved on the farm, and down to very young people that want to get into farming, because it's actually, it's one way that you feel you can make a difference. And I think maybe that's part of telling stories, because we moved onto the farm, we started selling eggs in Maston Ranges, and our only marketing was that inside our very plain egg carton, we had a little flyer on some vellum paper with a photo of we had some foster kids in, and I have a 22-year-old. Took a photo of the kids, and we took photos of everything we're doing on the farm, and we told them about what we're doing and that we left the city. And the following we've had has been unbelievable. We sell our eggs for $12 a dozen wholesale. They'll sell for $17, $18 in the city. We cannot sell enough, as in we can't make enough. We don't want to make more. The point is, a lot of people in the city crave a connection. And I don't know what your background, but it sounds like it's marketing, and given New York, it probably is. I think there's a lot of good stories to tell, and not just from third, fourth generation, but also from, newcomers to the industry. So that was, I guess, just all I wanted to say.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing your story as well. And it's those types of stories that we're really committed to getting out there and sharing. And, one of the things that we have done through one of our partners, Rabobank, when we have been traveling around Australia, and we have had the great fortune of traveling from one end to another, meeting producers all across Australia, but also meeting consumers. And what we have done is collected a pile, this high of messages from consumers telling us why they're thankful for farmers. And again, it's just reminding them. And I've spoken at a lot of farming events where there's a lot of farmers, and a lot of farmers who've been doing it incredibly tough. And I start to read some of these messages to them, and you can just see the room goes incredibly quiet. You can hear a pin drop, and you can see some of them, tears rolling down their eyes, because a lot of the time you guys probably don't feel that you're heard or that you're seen or even recognized and valued. And so stories like that enable us to be able to go and tell consumers every single day the hard work that you do on a daily basis. And a little bit like us, you work 365 days a year just so that we can have food on our table, but bringing that connection and bridging that gap from farm gate to dinner plate. So absolutely. And breaking down the stereotypical image of what a farmer looks like. A farmer isn't somebody with a big hat with a piece of straw sitting on a tractor anymore. Farmers are, as I said yesterday, innovators, scientists. You operate drones. It's technology. It's all of your marketers. You're all of those things. And farming's pretty darn exciting if you think about it as a career. So we do a lot of work with schools as well. We have a school program where we're out there telling kids how their food is growing. And again, through Rabobank, any school that participates in our school program gets the opportunity to be visited by a farmer or even go out on farm, so they can really start to understand who is growing their food for them.
it'd be really interesting to know of the attendees here the last couple of days what proportion are new farmers, regardless of age. And I suspect there's a lot. And look, what's the definition of a farmer? Is it just, you've got a vegetable garden in your backyard, or you're growing food and selling it, whatever? It doesn't really matter. It'd be interesting to see the proportion, because I think that's where some amazing stories is, case in point. And they don't have to be young farmers. They can be old farmers, And I don't know, I'm not expecting Matt to have that intel at his fingertips, but it'd be interesting to know because again, those stories, case in point, they're often, it's not a competition, but they're often the more interesting stories, because it's like, why the hell would you do that? We're hearing so many terrible stories about farmers and their lives and their livelihoods and the produce and the whatever else, the guilt. Why would you do that? But it's absolutely essential for succession, because it's a whole different game for succession now. We heard some sessions yesterday, and to highlight those and encourage people and say it's actually a good lifestyle, it's a good vocation, it's a good career, and telling those stories. And so if this happens again, I'm sure it will. I think it'd be a travesty if it didn't. This grounded, maybe we could have an opportunity for young people to, I don't know, I'm not in marketing, but have a booth somewhere and capture those stories and go 2 minutes. Why are you here? What are you? And being from a small rural town, Burrawa, I've seen the succession of farmers and any community evolve, and there's a few kids coming home, but there's more people moving in who have nothing to do with farming, but they are bringing some absolutely critical skills and skill sets into that community. Marketing is one of them, accounting, whatever, you pick it, it's there now, how to fly drones. And, becoming a new farmer or getting involved in the industry doesn't mean you necessarily have to grow food. There's so many other integral layers to this that we could be encouraging and telling those stories. And that opens a door. It's like, actually, you know what? That does sound cool. And then they start aligning their values with a new career, getting out of the city, growing their own food, meeting new people, quality of life, cost of living. I mean, there's some pretty compelling reasons why people might move and become farmers. And I'm not talking about someone going and buying 10,000 acres somewhere. That's kind of a bit of, that's hard, that's tough. That's a stretch, absolutely. But a couple of acres, and on the edge of town or whatever, I think it's a massive, it's going to be the biggest change in agriculture is that kind of farmer. And this is what these conferences are about, encouraging those people and making, creating a clear line of sight between events like this and actually getting on ground and doing these, getting rubber on the road, the execution of what we're hearing in the last couple of days. So I'm quite positive about that. There's a few roadblocks and a few bottlenecks, but I'm sure we'll get around it. And, back to Thankful for Farmers, it's these guys who are making it easier and, for people in the city to see that through your apps, through your initiatives. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. What would be great, I mean, you're a marketer, but you haven't got time to do marketing. That's the irony. It'd be great if there was a marketing agency who was compelled to just make you guys their charity. Is that a thing?
It would be very nice. You're persuasive. I can be persuasive, yes. I don't like to listen to no very often, so I've been told I can be very, very persuasive. But it's just, if there's an agency or marketing people who want to help and support, then it's always welcomed. And any additional help and support is also welcome, so thank you. Are there any more questions? No? We might wrap it up there and let you guys go and get a nice cool drink. It's getting pretty warm in here. But we are around, so if you do want to have a chat or you think about any connections you can make or any way that you might like to support, then we would be incredibly thankful. Yes, it does. Yeah. Yes, it does. And because we are a registered Australian tax-deductible charity, every donation is also tax-deductible. Any other questions? Thank you, guys. And please know that we are incredibly thankful for everything that you guys do for us. Thank you.